The Carolina Panthers just grabbed the steering wheel of the NFC South when nobody outside Charlotte was ready for it. One moment, they were coming off a crushing loss in New Orleans. The next, they were walking out of Bank of America Stadium with a tight win over Tampa and a record of 8-7 that puts them alone at the top of the division. This did not feel like a random December win. It felt like the night the rest of the NFC South realized Carolina is not waiting for the future anymore. They are trying to take the division right now. On offense, everything now runs through Bryce Young in a way that finally looks like a real franchise plan instead of a hope experiment. The run game is not bullying defenses the way it did when Rico Dowdle was ripping off those huge days and Chuba Hubbard was punishing tired fronts. So defenses are loading up on the run and daring the quarterback to solve it. Over the last stretch, Bryce Young has answered with calm feet, smart movement, and a rhythm that keeps drives alive, building chemistry with Tedairoa McMillan, Jalen Coker, and JT Sanders that makes this offense feel dangerous even when the ground game is stuck in mud. You can see the shift in his body language. He does not look like a young passer trying to survive. He looks like the point guard of an entire season. On the other side of the ball, the defense is starting to match that energy with big moments instead of quiet hope. Derek Brown is cleaning up the middle. Veterans like Christian Roseboom, Trayvon Moerig, and DJ Wanham are steadying the group, and Lathan Ransom just turned all the noise about his late flag in New Orleans into a statement interception to close out Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans in front of a playoff-level home crowd. Mixed in with new pieces like rookie edge rusher Nick Scorton and rookie wideout Tedairoa McMillan, this feels less like a rebuild and more like a team learning to play winning football under pressure. The wild part is that this surge has arrived with two massive games still sitting in front of them, and what happens next against Seattle will decide whether this night was just a great memory or the start of Carolina taking full control of the entire division. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Panthers and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. The Carolina Panthers just turned a messy division into a simple question. You are 8-7. Tampa Bay is 7-8. And everything that felt complicated all year is now sitting in your own hands. Beat Seattle at home. Hope the Miami Dolphins take care of business against Tampa, and you are talking about a division title and a home playoff game for the first time since 2017. That is not a dream season. That is one clean week of football away from becoming real. The twist is that there is still a second door waiting, and everybody in this division can feel it. If Carolina slips against Seattle and Tampa finds a way to beat Miami, then it all funnels into that last showdown between the Panthers and the Buccaneers with everything on the line. Same stadium as the old battles, same pressure, but a completely different story because now you have Bryce Young leading a team that believes it can close those moments, and you have a defense that just proved it by finishing against Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. One game decides whether this run becomes a true turning point for the franchise or just a painful reminder of how thin the margin is. What nobody is talking about enough is how tight the path really is from this point on. There is no room for lazy drives, soft tackling, or safe play calling, because every snap from here shifts the playoff picture, the noise around Bryce Young, and the way this young core is viewed across the league. The numbers and scenarios are clear now. The question is whether this offense can keep answering when pressure ramps up again, and that starts with what has quietly changed inside this unit over the last few weeks. Defenses finally decided they were done letting Carolina win on the ground. Earlier in the year, nights where Rico exploded and Chuba Hubbard kept hammering inside made everything look easy. But that tape has been studied over and over. Now fronts are crashing the line, safeties are flying downhill, and the simple handoff is not flipping games anymore. Instead of waiting for the run game to wake back up, Bryce Young has had to live in obvious passing downs, deal with extra pressure, and prove that this offense can still move the ball when everyone in the stadium knows the ball is leaving his hand. That pressure could have broken a young quarterback, but it has turned into the clearest signal of growth for Bryce Young. Over his last stretch of games, he has thrown 10 touchdown passes to only 2 interceptions, and those numbers are not empty. He is sliding inside the pocket instead of spinning into hits, finding small windows on third down and using his legs when the call breaks, but the drive still has to survive. In New Orleans, he led the team in rushing when the backs were bottled up, and in big spots against Atlanta and other defenses that love to blitz. He has looked more like the calm playmaker Carolina drafted than the rattled passer people were worried about early in his career. What nobody really saw coming was how fast the timing with his wideouts would catch up to that growth. Tedero McMillan has stepped right in as a rookie who plays like a longtime number one. Jalen Coker keeps popping up in tight windows on money downs, and even when Xavier Legette has ups and downs, the quarterback never stops firing into tight spots when the read tells him to trust it. This shift from a run-first, play-safe identity to an attack built around Bryce Young, reading pressure and punishing it, is the real story of the Panthers' late-season climb, and the best proof of that is what he just did, snap by snap against Tampa, when the game demanded real answers, not pretty box score stats. On paper, this should have been one of those games people scroll past without thinking twice. Bryce Young finished with 21 of 32, completions 191, passing yards, and 2 touchdown throws. And if you only see that line, it looks like a solid, normal day. It was not normal. Every big decision felt like a crossroad. Every third down, every blitz look, every late drive had real weight, because one mistake in that spot and Tampa walks out of Charlotte with the momentum and the tiebreaker. Instead, Bryce Young kept finding answers in moments that usually belong to older quarterbacks. The first real swing came right before halftime when most teams would have just played it safe. The rush closed in, the clock was running, and it would have been easy to check the ball down and settle. Bryce Young did the opposite. He slid inside the pressure, kept his eyes downfield, and fired a strike to Jalen Coker to keep the drive alive. Then on the very next punch, he stepped into another blitz and ripped a perfect throw to Tedero McMillan in the end zone. That sequence was the turning point. One play to move the sticks, one fearless shot for 6, all with bodies flying around him. No panic, no happy feet, just trust in his read and in his guy on the outside. Later, in the red area with the play already breaking down, he turned what looked like a bad call into a highlight that kept Carolina in control. The design sent Bryce Young rolling, the defense sniffed it out, and for a second, it looked dead. Then he pulled back, changed direction, and pointed JT Sanders into open grass, hitting him in stride for another huge score. On the final deciding march, he went back to Jalen Coker with a deep sideline ball that flipped the field and set up the winning kick. The kind of throw that tells a defense, you are not just trying to survive, you are trying to close. Those choices are why this win feels different, and they lead straight into the bigger story of how his main weapons have quietly become the heartbeat of this entire offense. The quiet secret behind this Panthers push is how fast the pass catcher room has grown up around Bryce Young. Every defense walks in knowing that Tedero McMillan is the main problem, and it still does not matter. For a rookie, he plays like someone who has seen every coverage in the book, winning with clean roots, strong hands, and a calm confidence when the ball is in the air. Corners lean on him, grab him, try to bump him off his line, and he just keeps separating. Keeps making those tough catches that flip a drive from third and long into fresh downs and fresh belief for the whole sideline. When Carolina needs a spark, the ball finds Tedero McMillan, and the entire stadium feels it. On the other side, Jalen Coker has turned into the kind of player who changes games without needing 10 targets. Nothing about his path was handed to him. He was not a top pick, not a big headline name, but when the moment gets tight, he keeps showing up. Deep outs, back shoulder throws, contested sideline grabs, he has made a habit of winning routes. Right when the defense thinks it finally has Carolina off schedule. That late strike down the boundary against Tampa was not some fluke. It felt like the next chapter in a pattern that started against teams like the Rams and the Saints, where Bryce Young trusted him in high-pressure spots and got paid off. Even Xavier Legette still pulls attention with his size and speed, and when he cleans up the drops and little details, this trio can stretch a defense from every angle. Then you drop JT Sanders into the middle of all of that, and the picture gets even harder to handle. When safeties widen to help on Tedero McMillan, when corners sit deep, because they have seen what Jalen Coker can do, JT Sanders starts slipping into open grass near the goal line and on key downs. He is not just a safety valve, he is a stress test for linebackers who already spent all night worrying about Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard out of the backfield. Put it all together, and you have a young core that is already playing like a playoff-ready group, which raises the real question that leads into the next part of this story. Can the coaching and the protection match the level that these weapons are hitting when everything is on the line? For all the love that goes to the skill guys, this whole thing still lives and dies with what Dave Canales calls and how clean the operation looks from snap to snap. You can feel his mindset in big moments. He is not scared to stay aggressive, to trust Bryce Young, and to chase touchdowns instead of hiding behind the clock. That is the good part. The problem is that there are still drives where the rhythm just vanishes. Early down runs feel forced, and the flow of the game tilts away from Carolina before anyone adjusts. When this offense is moving, motion, tempo, and quick answers are everywhere. When it stalls, you see slow calls, tight formations, and plays that never really threaten the defense. That gap between their best version and their flat version is what has to shrink if this team wants to be more than a nice story in December. Protection tells the same truth about this staff because it has been chaos on the line, and they are somehow holding it together while still leaving meat on the bone. Ikem Ekwonu, missing time, forced Josh Nijman into left tackle duty. Damian Lewis has had to anchor at guard. Cade Mays has been asked to snap. Austin Corbett and Taylor Martin keep getting shuffled into new combinations, and every week feels like a different five trying to think as one. Some series, the pocket is clean, and Bryce Young can climb, scan, and deal. Other series, free rushers show up untouched, and the whole drive explodes before a route even develops. That is not just talent. That is teaching, communication, and how fast the sideline fixes mistakes in real time. In January-type games, you do not get 3 chances to sort that out. The crazy part is that even with all that instability, the line and the staff have still found ways to give Ryan Fitzgerald chances to win games late and to keep this offense on schedule, just enough for the stars to make plays. But everyone in that building knows hoping the quarterback bails you out behind a patched-together wall is not a long-term plan. The more this staff tightens the protection rules, marries the run calls to the pass looks, and leans into what this group actually does well, the more dangerous Carolina becomes for real playoff defenses. Because on the other side of the ball, there is a unit that has already learned how to bend, hang on, and then rip the game away in the final minutes. And that is where the story really starts to get serious. One week, you watched rookie safety, Lathan Ransom, walk off the field in New Orleans with a flag on his name after that late hit on Tyler Shuck. And a lot of people decided the story on him was already written. 7 days later, he is dropping under a root, turning his head to find the ball from Baker Mayfield, and closing the game with an interception that flips the whole feeling of the season. That is what this defense is built on right now. Not perfection, but guys who take a gut punch one Sunday and answer with the game-winning play the next. They will give up yards, they will have stretches where the coverage looks soft, but when the moment tightens, they're starting to answer with hits, breakups, and takeaways instead of excuses. Up front, this is a completely different group than the one that got shoved around last year. They gave up more than 2,000 rushing yards in the last campaign. Now Derek Brown is healthy, living inside, eating double teams, and letting everyone else fly to the ball. Ashawn Robinson and Bobby Brown plug gaps. Christian Rosaboom times his shots downhill, and DJ Wanham sets the edge and chases plays from the backside. The pure star pass rusher who wins every single snap is not there yet, but rookie edge, Nick Scorton, is starting to look like the next problem quarterbacks will have to circle on the scouting report, bringing real juice off the edge when they need a stop and not just a slow bleed. Pride in that front has turned into a clear identity, and it shows every time a team tries to line up and bully Carolina like it did in the past. Behind them, the secondary is playing like a group that understands they will not always get help from a perfect rush, so they bring their own attitude. J.C. Horn takes the toughest receiver and turns routes into wrestling matches. Mike Jackson shakes off a touchdown allowed and then clamps down the rest of the afternoon. And Nick Scott cleans up everything underneath with smart angles and sure tackling. When all of that meets a confidence kicker like Ryan Fitzgerald, who can cash in the field position this defense protects, You get a team that can survive long drives and still be the one smiling at the end. The real question now is how that style holds up when the stakes jump again, because the rest of the NFC is getting tougher. Tampa is stumbling, and the last stretch of this race is about to test whether this defense can keep closing doors when the entire season hangs on a single drive. The strangest part of this whole story is that the Carolina Panthers look like the team on the rise, while the outside world still keeps one eye on Tampa Bay. A few weeks ago, the Buccaneers were sitting at 5-1. People were talking like the division race was already finished and Carolina was just fighting for pride. Since then, Tampa has dropped 7 of their last 9 games, and the Panthers just beat them head-to-head. Yet some models and odds makers still lean toward the team that is sliding, instead of the group that is actually stacking answers on the field. That gap between what people think and what is really happening is exactly where this Panthers team has lived all season. Across the conference, the road ahead looks heavy, and that is what makes this push feel so serious. Names like the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the San Francisco 49ers all sit in those upper seeds. Loaded with star power and veteran quarterbacks who have already played deep into January, the easy take is that a young Carolina team will just be happy to show up and then get bounced. The problem with that take is simple. This same roster has already taken out teams like the Rams and the Green Bay Packers. When nobody gave them a chance, they have held firm in tight moments, and they now carry a quarterback in Bryce Young who is playing his best football at the exact time when pressure is highest. You can feel it in how calm he looks, how sure Tedero McMillan, Jalen Coker, JT Sanders, and the rest of that young core move when the stadium gets loud. So, the last part of this journey is not about respect or pretty stories. It is about whether Carolina finishes the job when the season turns into pure survival. Tampa is wobbling, the rest of the NFC is watching, and 2 games sit in front of a team that was supposed to be at least 1 year away from this moment. Beat Sam Darnold and Seattle at home, and you might not even need that final drama-filled trip to Raymond James Stadium. Let it slip, and you are walking straight into a winner take all night against Baker Mayfield with the entire year hanging on 60 minutes. Either way, the Panthers have dragged themselves to a place where every snap feels like history trying to turn. And now, everyone wants to see if they keep pushing forward or let the old narrative pull them back.